bringing up toxic masculinity, do you believe that is a thing, though?
Yes.
Toxic masculinity going around the table?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Not a thing? Okay. Do you think there's toxic femininity?
Oh, 100%. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But why do we tend to hear more about toxic masculinity than we do about toxic femininity? Why do you think that is?
I think that's actually a really interesting question. I think because feminism is such a new field. Like, it's only been around, like, the term feminism, when was it coined? Like, I'm not even sure personally, but it's a relatively recently new field, right? When you have new fields emerging, you don't look at it with the same lens as you would a field that is, like, more established. I think that a lot of times with toxic femininity, I think a lot of times women will beat each other down, like little digs at each other, passive aggressive, making each other look bad in front of other people. I'm sure everyone at this table has experienced a woman being toxic to them in some form.
That's kind of a weird analogy, though, right? I mean, feminism's been around a lot longer than, let's say, the microchip, for instance.
Like, really, though?
Are you comparing feminism to a microchip?
No, like, I mean, I also assumed that it was within the past, like, few hundred years, maybe.
Yeah, I'm saying
how old do you think the microchip is?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't study microchips. It's... Okay.
I mean, if you had to guess, right, the microchip would be pretty recent, right?
Yes, okay. Can I please finish my point?
Yeah, well, yeah, but I still would like you to answer to this, because you start by saying, well, feminism is kind of a new term. And because of that, we're focusing on this kind of limited prism, which is really strange because I think that language and I think that ideas are just technologies, just like a microchip. They're all just technologies. So
okay.
It still kind of begs the question. I don't really understand why we would be hyper-focusing on toxic masculinity just because feminism is new. That's the part I don't understand.
I mean, I don't know. I think... It's not, it shouldn't be focused on just toxic masculinity.
I think that
if that's the case, like, you know.
I agree with your guys' points that toxic femininity does need to be talked about more. I've never said that. I think it's honestly a bigger issue than people make it out to be. I think that a lot of the times I think in a lot of instances too, a lot of issues that women have can be attributed to other women in these instances. But that's because...
It's like looked down upon almost by like the feminist, whatever that would be, culture, that if you are a woman and you say something against feminism or what the like social norm definition of it is, then you're not on the side, I don't know, on the right side of it. Or I don't know. I'm trying to like.
I think that a lot of times too, insecure women will gain confidence by putting other women down, and I think that's why it happens a lot of the time.
So it's just as bad as toxic masculinity. It's not like...
I found something kind of interesting. I was just trying to Google. I did a Google search of toxic femininity and toxic masculinity. And there's a full-on Wikipedia article for toxic masculinity. Mm-hmm. But if you try to search for toxic femininity, it redirects to internalized misogyny, which I think is interesting.
Why are you using Wikipedia as your source?
Well, I mean,
that is a bad
it's often cited, but I mean...
Getting like a societal consensus upon something, Wikipedia is pretty useful.
I mean, just anyone can put that information in there.
Well, Brian, how dare you think toxic femininity is a thing?
I think the first thing we were taught in school was to check your source.
I'm not saying Wikipedia is
obviously
because there's no toxic femininity. It's not very accurate.
Hold on. So UCSB has a feminist studies program. Have you taken any feminism courses?
Yes, I have.
Okay. How do you recall the name of the course? Or
I took Feminist 181. It was applied feminist theory.
Was there a more introductory course that you took, or that was the only feminist course you took?
I took Feminist 62. It was women of color.
So this used standpoint theory,
What was that?
feminist standpoint theory?
In the upper division course, yes. I
Yeah.
took it as a GE.
Okay.
Wait, so, but no, like is there an intro to feminism or anything like that?
Well, you take the lower divs before you take upper divs. The lower divs are considered your intro course before you get to the upper div course.
Well, you said so you took the color, what is it?
Women of color class is a lower div. It's introductory before
Okay.
the higher level
So you
one,
took that
yes.
one and then you took the applied
Yes.
feminism. What is applied feminism? What is that?
Applied feminist theory is applying theories that center around the perspectives of women and using that as a lens to view issues in society. So this can go with any theory. You could do this with Marxist theory, anything. It's just using a theoretical lens to view an issue.
In this point, the standpoint lens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, so you took issue with me citing to Wikipedia, kind of redirecting toxic femininity to this term internalized sexism, but isn't this a term that feminists use, internalized sexism or internalized misogyny?
Yeah, I have used that. I have heard that term
Okay.
used before.
So it's replaced, you don't use internalized, or you don't use toxic femininity, you used internalized sexism or misogyny.
No, I would probably use toxic femininity.
Is
to be honest.
is toxic femininity focused on in feminist studies
I would say yes.
more so than toxic masculinity?
I would say equally so. It
Equally
depends.
so.
Yes, I would say so.
Okay. And then what are some of the, did you guys talk about patriarchy theory?
Yes, it's a
I mean,
feminist
the whole
studies
thing
course
is
we did.
toxic femininity, ultimately, right? Because it's standpoint theory. So the entire prism or lens in which you're looking at the feminism is only and specifically through the prism of women.
It's looking at things through the perspective of women. This would be the same as if, but I will say that have any of you guys taken like a feminist theory course at all? No.
I'm very familiar.
Have you taken like a course or done like personal research?
Personal research.
Okay.
Wait, I have one quick question here.
Yes.
You said looking at things through the lens of women, or
Looking at things through the perspectives
Perspective.
of women. Yes.
but can this-
That's what standpoint theory
Yeah,
is, Brian.
but
So
can
that
this be like-
standpoint theory is the prism, the lens in which you're looking at the worldview. In this case, the worldview is only coming from the perspective of women.
but like, can this apply to math? Like, is there a
I mean, if
woman's...
you wanted it to, I don't know how it would, but we didn't focus on that.
Okay,
in
I'm
the
just
course.
curious. I don't know.
I guess theoretically you could apply it to that.
Okay.